In light of yesterday's Supreme Court decision on the Civil Rights Act of 1964, we're going to talk about something dangerous today, namely whether civil rights law is eroding civil rights. The Civil Rights Act is the bedrock legislation of the civil rights movement. It helped to speed Black Americans' rise into the middle class, a rise that was then cut short by the Great Society programs that destroyed Black families and fostered the kind of dependence and political patronage the Democratic Party has been living off ever since. There's no question that some sort of federal intervention was needed after a century of oppression, as Democrats had tried to replace the Democrat institution of slavery with the Democrat institution of Jim Crow. It wasn't fair, it wasn't right, and it wasn't American. Well, of course not. It was from the Democrats, so it had to be stopped. But that doesn't mean the law was without flaws or without bad unintended consequences. I'm coming to the end of reading Christopher Caldwell's amazing new book, Age of Entitlement, and I highly recommend it. Caldwell argues that the Civil Rights Act set up a parallel constitution that is in conflict with the original Constitution and is in fact devouring it whole. Some conservatives at the time predicted this, most notably Barry Goldwater, the Arizona conservative who ran unsuccessfully for president against Lyndon Johnson. Goldwater was a lifelong and dedicated believer in civil rights, but unlike most Republicans, he voted against the Civil Rights Act because he said it went too far in giving government power over private enterprises. By the way, just so you know, a larger percentage of Republicans voted for the Rights Act than Democrats, but you don't know that because we've torn down all the statues, so you have no history. But you should just remember that Democrats are locusts. Anyway, since then, the left and their lawyers have used the Civil Rights Act so effectively that employers, the people who own businesses, have very little control over their own property and enterprise and are hemmed around by case law that holds them guilty of bigotry unless they can prove themselves innocent. They're terrified, and they will therefore fire employees who just, for instance, tell the truth about the ugly leftist goals of the Black Lives Matter movement. So, one unintended consequence of the Civil Rights Act, then, is in fact a curtailment of the most essential civil rights, freedom of association and freedom of speech. That is done in the name of ending bigotry. But it's totally fair to ask this dangerous question: what good is it to include people in America if you're including them in a society that no longer has the basic American civil rights?